number of these this month, which I'll talk about. State of Maryland guidelines for social distancing and masks. Here's our recommendation. And our request to apply is if people eating, drinking, certainly you have a mask on and you're walking around. So the rest of us are right back here with the mask on. Candidates, when they get up here, will be able to get their masks off and wear microphones. We also have, if you need additional sanitizer, so thank you for your cooperation to keep us all safe in this COVID-19 environment we're in. I would like to acknowledge some of our elected officials for the Board of Education, some of whom are candidates as well, but currently in the position of Board of Ed, we have Melissa Williams, Stan Stouffer, Pieter Bickford. Good morning. Our candidates here this morning, again, will be Pieter Bickford, Forrest, Ladetra Robinson, Stan Stouffer, Melissa Williams, and April Zentmeyer. Bill Donahue is not been sensitive request. That's long that and we also have, who's going to be our moderator on this shortly, our Washington County Business of the Year with us here. I'd also like to thank Nick's Roof for referencing coffee audience here. Chef Marley made these this morning. We have a number of upcoming chamber events that we're going to be interested in. Again, for the rest of this month, we have additional election forums. Next Wednesday, we have the Hagerstown City Council candidates. The 21st, we have Hagerstown mayoral candidates. And on the 28th of October, we have the representatives district candidates. So look for that information to register. We also have via Zoom a Women Empowered program hosted by Melissa Wilder. We have guest speaker Barbara Martin with Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics. That's October 8th at 7:30 in the morning. We have a virtual leadership roundtable. That's Friday, October 9th, 9 to 10. That's hosted by Morgan Plummer, providing leadership. We have Your Next Customer on October 20th. It was formerly known as One More Customer. The design is retiring from that. So we've renamed it. We're doing our own Your Next Customer. That's the 20th at 8 o'clock. Hosted by Ed Peters. And we also have our next business and social hour at the Beacon House. That's October 15th, 5 o'clock to 7. Very importantly, the jackpot's up to $4,700. Never mind. You have to be there to win. Register by noon that day and be a member of the standing. So please, every one of our members is represented, but you have to be there to win. So we can give that money away. It's now my pleasure to thank and introduce our sponsor, Jameson Door. We have with us Greg Boyd, our Vice President, Administration Chief Financial Officer, and speaking to you this morning, greeting you is Dwight Clark, the President. Please help me welcome.
Dwight Clark.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Education is very dear to our hearts for the Jameson Door Company. Jameson, we have 5 manufacturing plants, all making temperature-controlled doors. 3 are in the area. Our original and largest plant is probably within a mile here. And it opened in 1906. For 114 years, we've been hiring the graduates of our school system as employees for the Jameson Door Company. To work at Jameson, well, in the front office, one of our largest departments is engineering. In fact, it is our largest department. That's where our new products come from. That's where the product development comes from. So, the care and nurturing of STEM-oriented students is critical for our success. Now, our largest number of employees are our factory workers. To get employed at the Jameson Door Company, you have to pass some basic tests. You have to be able to read a ruler, which means tape measure, which means you have to be able to do simple math. You have to be able to do fractions. That's to get employed in our factory jobs. There's something else beyond the skills. There's another type of skill that needs to be taught so that they're ready and structured to work at the Jameson Door Company. You have to be able to show up every day of the week on time. Every week, every month, all year long. And that's what's fundamental to stay employed at the Janus Support Company. So we depend on the schools to structure the students to be able to work in our environment like that. So yes, we're very excited about supporting the education of our community, as well as let's say that last one. Also, to greatly drill into the students that all of us, all these people that don't know, are excited. We're expecting to hire them when they graduate. We're dependent on that. So the kids need to know, the students need to know, there's all this greater community that's really excited and looking to be a part of their future success by providing good jobs in their home community. So with that, again, thank you very much for allowing us to sponsor, and we can't wait to hear from the candidates.
Right, and truly, business and education go hand in hand. Yes, Frye County. Thank you for your support. Thank you for those. So this morning, I'll introduce Aaron here shortly. Aaron's going to moderate questions this morning. Aaron serves on our Government Affairs Committee. The questions are derived from input from our members, and the Government Affairs Committee then formulates the questions based on a wide variety of topics. We'll have, for one question, 30 seconds to answer, and for a number of questions, 45 or 60 seconds to answer the candidates have. Aaron will tell you which question in 25 or 60 or 30 seconds. Up front here, Donna and her team are going to be keeping track of time. At 15 seconds, you're going to get a yellow warning sign, and when the time is up, you're going to get a red sign. We'd like you to get the red sign just to finish your sentence. And we'll trust the candidates to do that. We've had great success in the past. We don't anticipate any issues here this morning. If you go longer than usual, you're going to get the red light that's blind you. It's saying like a minute. You see the red sign, you know that you're getting ready to hit the red light. Let's see if there's something else here. Again, if we don't anticipate any issue, we just like to know keep talking. So we don't want to do that. We're not as friendly as at the Academy Awards that we're going to use it for this. It's just a information. Again, we do not endorse candidates in the paper. What we endorse is the fact we want our electorate to be educated, find out about the candidates, and vote who they think will do the best job in that position. That's our role. That's our job. We have a very wide variety of questions, a large number of questions, which we think is important, and that's why you're going to have 45 or 60 seconds in any case to answer. We want to cover a lot of territory. So at this point, I'm going to bring up Aaron Peteranecz. He's going to moderate. Please help me welcome Aaron.
Good morning. Good morning. So I think right now, the candidates come up and take seat, please. She also slipped out, but I want to give credit where credit is due. Chef Louis is up. Mayor this morning. All right. Good morning. Everyone settled in, ready to go? All right. Have your coffee. So yeah, every candidate will have the same amount of speaking time allotted. There's 18 questions, and every candidate will be asked 15. So not all questions will be answered by all candidates. And I will let you know how long the question has for answering or reading questions. So, ready? All right. So the first question will have 60 seconds to answer. Every candidate is answering this question. So, the question is, what motivates you to want this job, and what particular skills or experiences qualify you to be an effective school board member? Now, we've also tied in your responses to the free-form question. I'll start with Mr. Bickford. You mentioned budget setting, hiring the superintendent, and being a listener and a voice for the people. How do those sort of responsibilities of the board translate into your skill set?
So I think last time I ran when I was a newcomer, I talked about how my whole family seems to be teachers, which certainly has prepared me for knowing about education issues. Now having completed my first term, I've certainly learned about managing massive budgets. Our budgets, or correct me, 285 million. We would like to do more.
No voting for
Oh, no voting for him, sorry. The listening part is a huge skill to have, especially recently. You have to listen to all opinions. And this COVID crisis really has been the most difficult part of the term because no matter what, you're probably disappointing, if not angry, somebody when you make a decision. We really haven't had that too much in the first 3 years. So it's been very educational. I think we handled it very well. We can do it respectfully by listening to all sides and making the best decisions next time. It's almost going to flatten. Not that
All right, Mr. Forrest. You mentioned advocacy to the county commissioners and state government, as well as being actively involved in the entirety of your organization as important aspects of being a board member. How do your skill sets combine those?
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you, Paul, for the opportunity to be here. Good morning, everyone. So I am probably a new face to many people. I'm fairly younger than many of the other individuals in this room. I recently graduated from Prosper State University with a bachelor's in political science. And during my time, I had the opportunity to work with a number of organizations around advocacy and education policy, both at the local level and at the statewide level. So I have a significant experience, or level of experience in advocacy and interacting with local and state and federal elected officials. I'm sorry, what was the second set of what you said?
Your response?
Yeah, no, yes, no, it's
Being actively involved in the entirety of the organization.
thank you, that's the one. So my family has been, or is made up completely of educators. So I have a significant amount of experience working on that, sorry.
All right, thank you. Ms. Robinson. You listed listening and collaborating and increasing transparency and accountability as important parts of being important. Can you speak to this?
Okay, good morning, everyone, and I'm Ladetra Robinson, and I too, this is a new experience for me, and what motivates me to become on the board, like I said, was transparency, because there's a lot that people want to hear, the parents, the students, the staff, and I want to be a person that listens, and I'm motivated to listen to everyone in Washington County, and that's what motivates me. My biggest motivation is our children, and that's why I'm running, because I think all children have the best education in Washington County. A little bit about me real quick. I'm from Los Angeles, California, went to UCLA, and I ended up coming here through my husband. He's a Hagerstonian, and that's what made me come here. And I have 3 kids that went through the whole Washington County school system that are all in college now. So my passion is that all children have the same education, have the best education coming out of Washington County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stouffer, you listed some character traits that are important for board members to have, such as being motivated, informed, altruistic, collaborative, visionary. What are some of the specific skills or expertise that you feel are needed to be a board member?
Well, I think first of all, you have to, all those things are needed. You certainly don't get a lot of money for big people. Sorry.
Now you hear me. You certainly don't get a lot of money for being a board member, so you have to be willing to put your time in. You have to be motivated. You have to be informed. You have to be willing to listen, and you have to be able to make good decisions. And some of the responsibilities that you have to deal with, and choosing a visionary superintendent, we did so with Dr. Michael. You have to fight for funding. You have to be a staunch defender of the public school system. This thing of vouchers and so forth, you cannot have the public system supporting 2 to 3 different school systems.
So you listed setting yearly goals and priorities, and all of that all of the responsibilities and plans follow from those goals and priorities. How do you feel that your skill set lets you create those goals?
Well, first of all, I am a retired Washington County public school teacher, 35 years in the system. Some of that time is spent as a central office administrator. So I have a background in education. And as a teacher, goal setting and establishing priorities is a big part of education. So what I would say as far as my skill sets, I've worked hard as a board member to develop as a board member by participating in things that have been things, academies, and professional development opportunities through the Maryland Association of Boards of Education. I've taken every opportunity to serve on committees, to learn as much as I could possibly learn, and develop as a board member to hone my skills and skill set.
Thank you. Ms. Zentmeyer, I believe, is that correct? Okay. Someone whose last name is Peteranecz. All right, so you wrote that your life's passion is to teach all students to love learning. How can you translate that to a board position?
Good question. Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, let me thank you very much for this pop quiz. But remember, pop quizzes are only a snapshot of what you know. So I'm going to use my cheat sheet, so I stay under a minute. I agree with everything everyone has said, except that I have not worked in LA. It's important for us to model lifelong learning. And I think I've done that both as someone who's worked in small businesses. I worked as president and CEO of the electronics company and a small airline, and 30 years in Washington, most in Washington County School. I started in Baltimore City, went to Anne Arundel County, and I've served as a teacher and administrator in Washington County. So, lifelong learning, modeling what I preach. Thank you.
All right, so there is a random order of this, and I'm just going the same direction every time. So, this next question, you'll have 30 seconds to answer, and we'll start with Mr. Forrest. The question is, what ways have you been of service to Washington County?
Certainly. So, like I said, I don't have necessarily as long of a tenure, so that this list might not be as long. I So in 2015, my girlfriend at the time was murdered. You might remember that story in the news. But after that, I had the opportunity to work with the Community Foundation to start a scholarship for North High graduates. So that's a significant experience with working in the community that I kind of hang my hat on, interacting with our local government or our local business community and the nonprofits in our area.
When I first came out here in 2000, I jumped on real quick and started joining different organizations, basically dealing with children. One of them, the main ones I remember, was the Washington County Commission for Women. I had 2 terms in the Women Commission, and from there, my last term, I became the president of the Washington County Commission, Women Commission. From there, I started my school. I have an etiquette school for young ladies, now young men as well, Boston School of Etiquette. And that's where I started mentoring, teaching children, not just manners and everything, but also to have the capability and the confidence to have the best education possible.
Zentmeyer.
I've been a teacher, administrator, and I now sit on the board at the Women's Club where I legislate the service projects that we complete, including CASA, the food bank, the blood drives, Red Cross Caring Hands. This is my community. I want to reinvest.
Mr. Stouffer.
How I've been of service to Washington County. I spent 42 years as an educator working with high school students. I've been a coach, athletic director. Spent a lot of hours teaching, mentoring students in Washington County. I've been the president of my Lions Club in Williamsport. I'm active in my church. I've coached junior league soccer. I've done just various things like that.
As I said earlier, I'm a retired Washington County public school teacher, 35 years. I've served my community for 8 years as a member of the Board of Education, coming up on 8 years as a member of the board. I, along with April, have served on the Women's Club Board of Directors and the Women's Club Foundation as an officer. But what I'm most proud of would be the 3 children that I've raised. I think I've put out into our community 3 pretty phenomenal kids.
Involved in many local organizations, currently on the board of directors for the Maryland Symphony Orchestra. Previously helped to open the Moderator School for the Arts and served on the foundation. Chaired the Butterfly campaign to use the many butterflies down here. And currently work for a downtown business, helping many change marketing. For continued service.
So this next question, we'll have a pre-candidate answer, and you'll have 60 seconds to answer the question. It's a follow-up to your pre-forum response that was naming the current strengths and challenges facing the education and school boards in the area. So, Mr. Stouffer first. You listed the dedication of the entire educational community in combination with the technological investment that the board has made over the years as a perfect response to the pandemic. And you listed the 5-phase phase-in plan that was implemented. What role did you feel the board played in crafting the 5-phase plan? What role did the board play in crafting and implementing that?
I'm going to be quite honest with you. Basically, that 5-phase plan was mainly the result of the superintendent and the professional staff. They went over it with us, asked us if we had any additions or anything we'd like to see done with that. We, of course, have a lot of back and forth conversation with the superintendent about these things. We are allowed to make recommendations and so forth. One of the things that was done by the board. I was caught off guard by it because I think sometimes the superintendent needs to have the leeway to do things, was the fact that he wanted teachers to come back and the board voted to allow teachers to teach from home. So that's it.
That's Mr. Forrest. You listed technology as a strength, but then also the challenges of inclusivity by using technology. Can you address how you carry those two?
Certainly. So technology, I think, is a strength. I think it's when we're able to integrate that, number one, into a regular classroom setting, that it's a strength that prepares students for the world that they're going to live in, and or at least as we anticipated now, technology is always changing. But when we're talking about when we're away from those school buildings and we're putting students in uncontrolled environments, that's where we start to talk about inequalities and inequities in access and in the ability, students' abilities to engage with those technologies and with the supports that they need. So I think it's important to keep both aspects in mind when we're talking about policy and how we're integrating those into a student's learning.
Ms. Robinson, you listed communication skills as a strength, and then also hiring minority staff as a weakness or a challenge. And those two be connected in a way that
Communication skills, because I put communication skills as a strength because we all have voice and we're talking as far as the parents, the teachers, the students. The challenge is why I said minority staff. The reason why I think that we need to hire more minority staff, because children want to see people like them and they feel more comfortable. And like I said, with me teaching Blossom School Etiquette and listening to all the different children that I did over 15 years, I've had young people, all nationalities, all economical backgrounds, but the one thing they've always talked about, we need to see people like us. So communication is, I feel, hiring and retaining teachers of all nationalities for our students. I think that's where it ties in, the communication and the hiring of minority staff.
So the next question, the remaining three candidates will answer. And the question is, in the pre-form questionnaire, you noted the role that you believe the elected school board plays in preparing students for post-high school education or for workforce development and certification. Ms. Williams.
Yes, well, I think,
Real quick, you mentioned many programs designed to assist in post-high school careers, but how do you measure that success?
how do we measure the success of what?
Of preparation students post-high school.
Well, I think one of the ways we measure the success is, how many students are employed and how they're employed, how many are going on to further their education. I think we do collect some longitudinal data with regard to those things. So that would be my response.
Thank you. Mr. Bickford, you said that there's a responsibility to ensure all students have something to do with Monday after graduation. Very good.
Well, I think it just pains you when you know that somebody has graduated from high school and ideally you want them on Monday to have a job or a plan or have an acceptance letter to a college or secondary school. And so I always call that Project Monday. We get everybody with a plan. One of the ways to do that, I think, is I really like an idea that I've seen used in Frederick, where they starting in 8th grade at certain high schools, before they even come to high school, they work with a counselor to come up with that plan, and they continue working on that plan. It takes extra funding because you have to dedicate certain counselors to do that. And as you know, we need more guidance counselors. But that's what I call my project.
Thank you. Zentmeyer, You said that it's critical to develop pathways to professions in high demand. How can the system be forward-thinking enough to meet future demand in those high demand fields?
It's very important that we ask you this question. Without you providing shadowing programs, apprenticeships, hiring our kids while they're still in high school, they will never have the opportunity to learn by doing. And that is how we learn. We'll prepare to be critical thinkers. You prepare them for the workforce. And I am so hopeful that that's exactly what will happen. Thank you.
All right, next question. This is a 60-second question. All candidates get to answer. Currently, how accessible is the current board to the community? And for those that are incumbents, how can the board members be sure to stay accessible? And then for challengers, how can be more accessible? So we'll start with Mr. Stouffer.
I'm very accessible. A few emails about the recent decision to that was made, an operational decision to allow sports and so forth. And I don't like to answer emails. So I wrote back and I told them, I said, if you wish to discuss this with me, please call me at my cell phone number, 301-991-538. And I must have done that to between 10 and 20 people. No one called me. But that's the way I like to do it. I don't like to have an email training and so forth. I think this board that I serve on has been very responsible to the public. I think this board has, well, until recently, calmed things down. There have been a few things that do not have happened, but
Mr. Forrest.
So I have a little bit of experience in accessibility from when I was serving as, in a number of roles at the Frostburg Student Government Association and with student government across the state. We had some questions of accessibility with that. And so I think there's an important distinction to be made between actual accessibility and then the appearance of accessibility or the ease of accessibility for people to engage with an organization. And so I think there are certainly ways for the board to be accessible, but I think we can do a better job of making it an easier job or easier way to engage with the board. So I think it would be, if I'm elected, I hope to go out into our community or to our schools and talk to people where they are. It's important to meet people where they are and engage with them.
Ms. Williams.
Yes, as a board, we are accessible via email and via public comment. We have a public comment portion of each of our business meetings. During the pandemic, that has been difficult because for the safety of the staff and for the community, we have not had in-person public comment, but we have received numerous emails. As an individual, and I can say this for Peter and Stan as well, we have our phone numbers on the Washington County Public School website. Many people call thinking that they're calling our office, when in fact they are calling our home, and we answer from the dining room or the kitchen or wherever it is that we are. Can we improve our accessibility? I think there's always room for improvement. There was a time when I was looking for coffee and conversation, something that boards did long ago. And we were advised by our legal counsel that there were issues with that in terms of having a quorum.
Being a people person that I am, one thing I would say that we have to be, well, if I'm on the board or how the board seems for now, we have to be more accessible, because being out there, that's one of the main things I'm hearing the parents, the teachers are saying they feel they're not being heard. So I think we would have to work on to be more accessible, because if they know that you're listening, they're gonna be much better and feel much better being, with Washington County Public Schools. And I'm hearing it so much as I've been going around that they don't feel that no one's listening to them. And like I always, since my kids were in school, I was always listening to the Board of Education meetings. And a lot of parents are doing that, and when they are doing it, they still feel that no one's listening to them. And I think that's one thing we have to do, we have to listen. And if I did become on the board, one of my main things would be is to do a listening tour and hit all the elementary, middle, and high schools.
Zentmeyer.
I don't want to get the flash, so. Obviously, social media can be bad, it can also be very good. I have seen my website, one's shying asking me questions, or my platform. So that's a really good vehicle. I know Melissa answers every email that she receives for the board, and that it also works. But in Washington County, there's one thing faster than the internet. That's word of mouth. So being in the community and serving the community is the very best way that I can listen.
I would agree, really, some great ideas from all the candidates. I know one thing that we've been very frustrated with COVID is previously to now having to meet virtually, there really wasn't an easy way to accept public comment. The technology wasn't there. We were starting to explore ways to do that, and then we reopened, and now we have come up with a plan to have public comment. But I also think the juices are flowing, because people don't like to necessarily come in person and speak to you. It's very daunting. And so I think we are already thinking of new ways to use technology to allow more public comment. I will say, one of the things we do as a board is when people send us emails, especially recently, Melissa has been our responder in chief. And we've gotten a lot of emails, and I also would like to credit our superintendent, who despite his long hours and long weekends, still tries to answer every email he gets personally. So it is an ongoing conversation.
All right, so the following questions will all be 45 seconds. 7 minutes. So next question is, what have you done or will you do as a board member to help attract and keep highly qualified teachers to our schools? We'll start with Mr. Bickford.
One of the things I'm really proud of during our first term is that we were able to use some of the funding that came our way from the state to raise our starting salary to the highest in Maryland. And when you raise the starting salary, it means everybody's salary goes up. So teachers, we're already starting to attract more qualified teachers from other counties into our area, because Washington County can brag that we pay a starting salary to someone of $55,000. We probably miss the exact figure. That's a huge thing for attracting a candidate. I think the other thing is we need to promote the community and show what a great place this is to live. The chamber certainly helps with that. I think the students and are really cool for the arts also.
Zentmeyer.
I'm going to have to agree with that. It's the community that attracts teachers. It's our school system that retains them. When we teach teachers that they are professionals to whom we look to for answers to challenging problems, we retain teachers. Salary's great, but promoting professionalism is a very, very close second. We are blessed with this community and the people that teach in it. Let's always remember to give them that pat on the back.
Forrest.
So I'm going to steal that last bit, because now I'm going to set mine as my cheat sheet. It is extremely important that teachers feel supported, that they feel heard, and that they feel valued. And that's what keeps teachers here. Mr. Bickford talked about the starting salary, and that is certainly an extremely important part of getting teachers to come here when we're talking about where all the choices we have in the great counties that we have now. I'm a little obviously biased to Washington County, that's okay. But we have a great state, but it's important that once these teachers are coming here, we're supporting them, we're giving them the opportunity and access to professional development and things like that, and sports like that, but also the time to be able to engage with those and to fully benefit from them and not overload their plate into themselves.
Mr. Stouffer.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to reiterate some of the points that have already been stated. Money, of course, so we raised the starting teacher salary. We have an excellent health insurance plan, which is self-funded, which is, I think, a great retention tool. Again, I think we honor the professionalism of our staff. We give opportunities for advancement. We are cognizant of the fact that teaching is not an easy job. I can speak from experience. I spent many nights for 42 years sitting up, grading papers, watching the Super Bowl, grading papers at times, this type of thing. So I think those things are all important in retaining teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson.
One of the first things I would say would be welcoming, making them feel welcome in the community, valuing them, showing a lot of value, make a person want to stay. Of course, the salary is, I hear that's one of the number one, but I think really value, making them feel the community embracing them and they feel like they belong to the community. That really would retain the teachers. Thank you.
One of the benefits of going last, it's all been said. I don't know that there's anything that I can add except ditto. But I would like to go back to an earlier question about the strengths of our system, and it is human capital. I think we are blessed to have the talent and the dedication that we have, the people who work for Washington County School. And that's from the very top with our superintendent, right down the ranks. I mean, we are very, very blessed. And if I might add one thing to all that's been said, I think it's important that people know that there are opportunities for advancement in Washington County Public Schools. And it's a perfect example. It's been a long time since one of our own has been the superintendent of Washington County Public Schools. And I think that says a lot for those who are employed in the system, that there is an opportunity. So I apologize.
She likes doing that.
Did you used to do
Absolutely. We don't have a lot of time.
All right, so next question. Moving on. Individually, school board members don't have much authority at all. Only the board as a whole can make decisions for the board then. What skills or traits do you possess that will allow you to contribute to the effective operations of the board as a whole? And please provide a specific example that demonstrates one of those skills or traits. We will start with Ms. Williams.
Oh, great. I was last. Okay. I am a consensus builder, and I am a listener, and I keep an open mind, and I'm a good listener. I'm a critical listener. So I would say that one of the things that I'm able to do is to work to build consensus in decision making.
Oh, great, me too. You're absolutely right. The one thing they teach you when you become a board member is you're pretty powerless. You have to work as a team, which is one of the reasons I wanted to be on the board, because we do have a fantastic team. I would say a specific example was when we came in, we knew our kindergarten readiness scores were frankly embarrassing, and there's reasons for that. But those are the skills that people have when they start kindergarten. They're not quite ready for kindergarten. So one of the things we did was to expand our preschool program universally, and we've already just incredible how our numbers have just skyrocketed because of universal preschool. So being a part of that decision and fighting for that, I would say is a specific example. Thank you.
As individually, school board members have no authority, only the board as a whole can make decisions for the board. What skills or traits do you possess that will allow you to contribute to the effective operations of the board as a whole? Please provide a specific example that demonstrates one of those skills.
Listening, collaborating, and being a team player. I think those are the skills that you need to be on a board. I'm a manager at a hotel here in Hagerstown, and I know with my team of staff that I have to listen and we have to work together to keep each day going correctly. We have to be team players. We can't just be a one-person show. And like he said, like Bickford said, when I first came into that meeting for the people that was running, when I heard that you're pretty much voiceless, you have to work together, it was a shock to me because I thought we all had our own say. So, I know that's what I knew that I wanted to do, be a good listener and collaborate, and I think I have those type of skills. Thank you.
Mr. Stouffer.
Would you repeat the question, please?
I heard the question.
Basically, what are your skills and traits as a consensus builder?
Well, I think one of the things that we do on the board is we have very frank discussions. And sometimes we really disagree, but on the present board, when it's all over said and done, we reach, as Mrs. Williams said, a consensus, and we move on. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've done. One of the things that I'm very proud of we did, I sat in a meeting back in 2016, a week after I took office, and heard the previous superintendent announce his intention to retire. And I sat there and I thought, okay, we got to find a new superintendent. And immediately, I know this gentleman for years. We've been on different sides of issues, but I thought Dr. Michael is going to be my choice, and I'm going to push for him to be the superintendent. And we're able to bring the board around on that.
Everyone's taking a turn. Zentmeyer.
I'm a team player. And consensus is important, but it's also really important to know that you don't know everything. I'm pretty good at finding people who do, though, and surrounding myself with them. At Boonesboro, as students achievement specialists, we were dead last in money for scholarships and testing. By asking teachers to brainstorm, come up with solutions, and enact those solutions, we arrived at the academy. Within 2 years, we were no longer last.
I don't need you to repeat the question. So I have developed collaboration and consensus building skills through a number of ways. Through my time in education, through coming through our county school systems, through my time working with the Boy Scouts of America, through that program and earning my Eagle Scout in 2016. And then through my time working with shared governance across the state and at Frostburg, working with diverse groups that of individuals who have certainly different ideas, but are able to come to consensus and build consensus around specific issues in the best interest of the people that we're working with and serving.
Next question. What kind of relationship should a district have with the county's business community? In what ways have you reached out previously, or would you reach out to the business community to build their support for quality public education? Let's start with.
Certainly, I think it's essential that our educational system, our county schools, have a robust relationship with our local business community that, as Mrs. Zentmeyer said earlier, really view the business community should be telling us where focus needs to be because of you have the needs. The needs are in our community. They're already there. We just need to be better. We need to work to identify where they are and to tailor the educational opportunities that we're presenting and we're facilitating to meet those needs.
Well, I think one of the ways that the business community can help us, and we can reach out to them, is to help us to secure adequate funding to run the educational system. This present board has been very good stewards of the budget and the funding that we get from local sources and so forth. One of the things that many of the members of the present board did when we took office was we told Dr. Michael, if you want us to support and try to get more funding and so forth, we have to know that the funding that we are getting is being spent in the right areas and being spent correctly. And he and his staff went through, made adjustments to the budget, cut about $2 million, I think it was, something like that. So that's the biggest thing I think the business community can do. We are the largest corporation in one.
Just so you know, I give you all 5 seconds to pass the 45 before I turn this on, okay?
Is that fine?
Need an amicable relationship with our county commissioners. It's not just the board, parents, teachers, superintendent, students. It is everyone working hand in hand, collaboratively find funding. That's our biggest challenge, and it's the one that we need to meet. So lobbying, yeah. Do we know them? Yes. Do we know how to meet and greet? We do, and that's what we need to do.
Ms. Williams?
Well, the business community's advocacy and help in securing adequate funding would certainly be appreciated. We want to produce the best possible product to put out there in our county, and our students are our product. We have programs, we have CTE programs, we're constantly adding programs to our schools based on what we know the community and the business community needs in terms of a workforce. So help us get the funds that we need to be able to educate the students in the way they need to be educated.
Yeah, I think continuing to organize even field trips, especially for high schoolers to visit our local businesses, is extremely important. One of my most memorable experiences when I was in Western Heights was going Mack truck for the day. And one of the things that when high schoolers get to tour our local facilities, they realize that there are some really neat companies here that do make products for around the world. And then when they get excited about it, we probably stay in the area unless we become taxpayers. And that's against our economy. So I think there is that simpatico relationship with our local business community that we continue to work on.
Yes, I think the business community is very important because I feel that with the business community that have internships for the children that are in juniors and seniors to let them know what is out in Washington County. We have so many children that are graduating and doing really good, but they don't come back to Hagerstown because they feel there's nothing in Hagerstown when there is. And I think we need to let the children, like you said, field trips to see different things that are going on in the community and what type of businesses are out here that whatever field they want to go in, there might be a company out here instead of going somewhere else in another state or another community, stay and you come back and give to your own community.
Next question, we'll have 4 candidates answer. Question is, describe how the board can provide quality education for a diverse student population, including gifted and talented, average students, special education, cultural differences, academic challenge, English with a second language. And we'll start with Mr. Stouffer.
I knew you were going to do that. All of that, to me, all that requires funding. We have to have the money to be able to have the staff, provide the training, to provide the facilities, to provide those services to those students meeting those needs. We do a pretty good job of that, I think, but there's always room for improvement. I think, especially in special education. I think there's always a need to address all the needs of the diverse population, because the population of this county in public school system was a lot different than what I taught.
Williams.
Yes, could you repeat the question again? The question is, what can the board?
Describe how the board can provide quality education for a diverse student population.
Well, I think we can do that through the curriculum for sure, and the programs that we offer, and the policies that are set. And again, it comes down to funding, to have even money to be able to make those opportunities available. With regard to diversity and equity, we're doing things in Washington County. We have Dr. Michael has recently hired a supervisor of equity and excellence who's doing professional development on diversity and equity. So our teaching staff and our administrators are being made aware of what they can do in terms of supporting cultural proficiency in our schools. Thank you for the red sign.
Mr. Bickford.
Could you repeat it one more time? I apologize.
Just describe how the board can provide quality education for a diverse student population.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things one of the reasons we expanded pre-K is because we realized that many of the behavioral issues we were seeing was were students coming into our schools. And so by expanding preschool, that gets students on the right foot as they go into our schools and continue to, and then you can provide programs for all levels. One of the most frustrating thing about COVID is we knew that some of the students who need the most help would be cut off by the technology. It's one of the reasons why we pushed to keep the numbers down so that we can bring some of those students, many of those students, we call them our priority population, back into the classroom. So brief answer, but we could talk about that for about an hour, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Forrest.
Okay, so the last time I'm gonna ask you to summarize.
Yep.
Not for you.
Describe how the board can provide quality education for a diverse student population.
Absolutely. So I think that our county really works to do this every day, that our teachers are working with diverse students and diverse levels of students in the classroom. And so they're working with the opportunities and the support that they have to really achieve that goal. But I think it's important for the board to be intentional in what we are doing. So in the opportunities we're trying to increase, it's important for us to intentionally identify what those opportunities are, what the groups, they're the topics we're going to focus on. So if that's diversity, we need to really be intentional in working with that, working with our students and our families and our teachers and figuring out where we're not succeeding, and then working together to work and finding best practices to work on how we can improve those things.
All right, moving on to the next question. And it is, what specific actions should the board take to increase the role of parents in decision-making and promote parental involvement in schools? Let's see, we'll start with Ms. Robinson. What specific actions should the board take to increase the role of parents in decision-making and to promote parental involvement in schools?
Being more transparent, letting the parents have a say in them, because like I said before, I've heard a lot of parents feel they don't have a say. So I think we should be more involved with the parents, because they're the one that's sending their children to the school. So we have to get the parents more involved. And I think as being on the board, I do a lot of listening. To me, that's the most priority with working with the parents, would be listening to the parents, listening to their concerns and being aware of what's going on with families.
In elementary school, parents are very involved. And then middle school arrives and they have that pressure from their students to become disinvolved. It increases in high school, by the way. Parents need to know that they're welcome, their comments are important, and that we're investing in their children as well as they are. So when we talk about parents, that one-to-one communication as well as using social media is important. So getting out there and talking to parents, like I said, the only thing faster than the internet in Washington County is word of mouth. So presence is imperative.
Thank you. Mr. Stouffer.
One of the things that I found out at a policy committee meeting some time ago, we were working on a policy, revising it about various advisory committees to the board and so forth. And I was amazed to find out that the County Citizens Advisory Committee, CAC, no longer existed. The school groups they no longer existed. We had a lot of these groups that only meet once a year, this type of thing, and so forth. So I think we have to, that's one of the things I'm going to ask the next policy meeting, what we've done to revise, if anything, the County Citizens Advisory Committee. I think we have to get those up and running, and I think we have to listen to the parents. I think this board does a pretty good job of listening to the public.
Next question. In your opinion, is the push for STEAM, speaking longer, science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and manufacturing, still relevant in the education of our future workforce? What order would you put these in? Okay. I'm going to go with Ms. Robinson. It's science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and manufacturing.
Well, I'm a science major. I was a biology major at UCLA and also at Johns Hopkins and got my master's. And so I would probably say science, but then also technology, because that's what the world is revolving around. Science, technology, arts.
Engineering, math.
Okay, so next would be math, then engineering, and then arts. And I know I probably would have some people cringe when I say arts at the end, but I think technology is really one of the number one in science. Math would be the top 3 priorities for me.
Okay, I asked. Mr. Forrest.
Certainly will. So my major was political science, but my minor was mathematics. So I'm just a hair in partial to mathematics. So I would always put math first because I love math. But I think it's very difficult to, from an objective standpoint, order those in a way that, in a hierarchy, that put one more important than the other. I think for individual students and for individual learning styles and for individual preferences, what is going to be important is going to be tailored to what you want to do, what your interests are, and what your successes are, and what your goals are. So I am hesitant to order them, but again, I'm partial to that. But I think it's important to work with students and work with these groups so they're able to order them themselves.
Yeah, it's hard to rank them because they're really, I think the real answer is that you need to make sure that the students who are going to thrive in each of those programs get into those programs. Because one of the things that we find is when students are focused on something that they're passionate about, the other academic side of school comes into line. We see that with the Barbary School for the Arts. We see that with Tech High. When you get into the program that you want to be in, when you take your math classes, when you take your English classes, you can take honors levels classes, and the students want to be there, so they work that much harder to stay in the program, and then they're that much more prepared for the honor qual.
I got A's in physics, failed Latin. Ms. Williams.
Yes, well, I 100% agree with what Peter and Ben have said. I would not want to prioritize them. I think they're all equally important. I'm co-chairing a Maryland Association of Board Education Conference next week, and the topic is the whole child. And I feel that we really need to be developing well-rounded individuals. But I'd also like to say, I think perhaps the arts needs to be pushed, because in this world that we're living in, I think we all need a little more sensitivity, a little more creativity, a lot more empathy, and I think that comes through the arts. So that's where I am today.
Next question.
Could I add something to that question?
I think so. We're on a tight ship.
I'll let Don in charge. I'm gonna flash you again, Stan.
Do I get a chance to answer that question?
Do not. No, moving on. Are there any community partnerships or activities that you look towards to support student achievement outside of school? Let's start with Ms. Zentmeyer.
Actually, in Anne Arundel County, I was the one who devised the program under the assistant superintendent for interns and apprenticeship programs. We live in a litigious situation with many lawsuits, so it's difficult to get kids out there, but we need to still try. And in answer, since I have some seconds left to the last one, many jobs that our kids first, second, third grade will accomplish don't exist yet. So combine all to teach critical thinking skills and problem solving.
Thank you. Ms. Forrest. Are there any community partnerships or activities that you look towards to support student achievement outside of school?
Certainly. So I think that goes back to what we were talking about with the last question, because those community partnerships are important in getting students to identify areas where they're passionate about, where they're able to identify things with their learning and communicate them into real experiences to get them excited about learning. So I think that increasing and working with our business community to identify what the opportunities are within those within the realms are important in supporting our student learning.
Yes, I think community partnership is very important because it'll support the children, like Ben said, give them a reason, give them an opportunity to decide what they want to do in life. So I think business partnership we really need to do that here in Washington County. They'll help our children in the long run after they leave out of high school.
Next question. What is your position regarding vouchers? Do you believe that public money should be spent on private and religious schools? Why or why not? Start with Ms. Zentmeyer.
I think that the Supreme Court has just ruled on that in a 5-4 decision that will set a precedent. And I'm not sure that we can overturn that decision.
Mr. Bickford.
Well, I'm gonna go on the side of public education just because we are the Board of Education and we fight for all the funding we get. And I think one of the things we've shown is that we're not the highest funded county in Maryland, that yet we still are one of the top counties in many areas, including teacher salary. We were one of the first to get back to schools to some sort of learning during COVID, while many of the higher budgeted counties took 8 weeks. It was almost summer before we were getting it back in days. So I would say I'm not necessarily in favor of vouchers just because currently we need all the funding we can get for public education.
Ms. Williams.
I believe public education is where things should be. I'm not one who favors vouchers. I think a free public education is a wonderful thing and a wonderful thing that this nation is able to provide its students.
So.
I'm glad you asked me that. I'm against vouchers. I'm a staunch supporter of the public school system. I think, we educate the masses in this country. We've had a public school system in the state since the 1860s. And I don't think the money should follow the child. If you want your child to go to private school, then I think you should pay for it. I don't think we can have a bifurcated support from the government for two different educational systems.
Next question. Currently, 43% of all students entering kindergarten in Washington County are
I think that once school starts opening, I think it's opening soon for kindergarten, and I think at the kindergartens, we have to work with them a little more. Sorry.
Over. We're going to have a more involved adult population that I'm helping. And believe me, for a high school English teacher, that elementary curriculum needed a lot of support. Fortunately, we have the internet, and there are great things there. Unfortunately, not everyone has access to the internet. But as teachers and parents get together, especially on a school level, building that community and relationship will help.
Thank you. Mr. Forrest.
Certainly, I'm going to echo some of the earlier answers in saying that it is extremely important to empower the parents to help our students while they're at home, that we're able to continue that learning, not just during the school day while the students are interacting with their teachers, but they're also continuing that learning while in working with someone who is working right there with them. But I think it's also important to talk about the amount of focus students are able to get while they're in a classroom. So that brings us to talk about class sizes. As we are able to minimize class sizes and increase the amount of one-on-one or the lower the ratio of student pupil ratio, these students are able to get more interaction with instructors and then are able to make up a lot of lost ground because they're working directly with individuals.
Yeah, I would say the preschool program, the work is already underway to improve that kindergarten readiness score. COVID hasn't helped, but I think you're going to start to see that number continue to rise higher. One of the reasons with COVID that we made a decision, pretty decisive decision in July to go virtual was not just to give parents warning, but it was also to give our school system the capacity to completely focus on virtual for the next 7 weeks. So that when we started the school year, it was going to be extremely effective. I think we're seeing that. We're continuing to learn, and now that we're starting to get kids back into the classroom, including preschool next Monday, kindergarten, I think you'll continue to see the scores improve.
Mr. Stouffer?
I think some of the work's already being done. They're trying to identify students with learning gaps and bring them back into the schools and so forth. I think the pre-K program has helped a great deal. I'm very proud of the fact that this board pushed and agreed with the superintendent to begin that.
Thank you. All right, next question. It's a long one, so let's all pay attention. How will you address the current challenge caused by the pandemic? How should the system safely hold classes while meeting the need to protect faculty and staff? What are your views on virtual learning and how you ensure that all students, regardless of economic status, have access to the tools they need to participate? Considering the loss of class time instruction, what needs to be done to bring students up to grade level?
Here, 2 minutes. Yeah, let's give it 60 seconds on this one. All right, so 45 to 60. So if you want to repeat one more time,
Sure.
We have some time. I want to make sure the candidates understand, and it is a few pieces to that puzzle. So, all right.
All right, I'll read it one more time. How will you address the current challenge caused by the pandemic, and how should the system safely hold classes while meeting the need to protect faculty and staff? What are your views on virtual learning, and how would you ensure that all students, regardless of economic status, have access to the tools they need to participate? Considering the loss of class time instruction, what needs to be done to bring students up to grade level? And 60 seconds. Ms. Zentmeyer.
The mixed blessing of virtual learning is we know how to do it now, or at least we've got a great start on it. Our teachers have just gone above and beyond I have a teacher in the county, so I watched this happen, to address the learning gaps, provide a quality education, and engage students. I might add that she is involved with some of the most needy students in the county. Let's not lose the lessons we've lost about virtual learning when we dispense with and go for it. We have an opportunity here. Let's not lose it.
Thank you. Mr. Stouffer.
Well, first of all, I think those people who have advocated for years that virtual learning is the way of the future, I think we're saying that virtual learning is never going to replace the interaction between a teacher, a competent teacher, and students in the classroom. I think the superintendent, with his 5-phase plan, is doing a good job of trying to gradually and slowly, as the governor instructed, to bring students back into the schools. And I will tell you this, and I don't mean to sound harsh or mean or anything, but as we bring children and more people back into schools, I'm quite sure there are going to be cases of COVID. And I think that's a reality that we have to live with. And I think we're doing everything possible to set up protocols to provide for the safe re-entry of students back into the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Forrest.
I'm not gonna ask you to repeat the question, even though I'd like to. So I think that number one, safety has to be a priority. That as Mr. Stouffer had mentioned, that the protocols that we've put in place and are continuing to put in place as we bring students back into buildings and continue their and to transition their learning back to more normalcy are extremely important. It's important to the safety of not only our students but our staff and our and faculty play a number one role. You said, okay, I'm going to ask you this. About learning, about increasing or supporting learning, correct? The last part of the question.
Yep, the long class time instruction.
Thank you. Okay, I apologize. So that is extremely important, and we can use some of the virtual tools, as Ms. Zentmeyer said, that we have used during virtual learning to increase and supplement classroom learning that they have to really create a more personalized approach and make up for that lost time. Sorry.
Mr. Bickford.
I'm actually confident. I tend to be an optimistic person, but I'm confident that when this is all over and we look back and study it, we'll find that Washington County did better than other counties. One, because we're in a unique position that we committed to having all students have some sort of device, whether it be an iPad and now a laptop. And we stuck by that, and we've continued to fund that. So when virtual learning began, the first challenge was already out of the way. Kids know how to use their devices to learn. It was just a matter of hooking them up with the teachers. So I think you'll find that that will go a long way in closing that gap. And I would also say that it's amazing how life works, because this is a conversation that's been coming for a while. How do we know we have all this technology out there. How do we use that to enhance education? And I think some of the things we're learning during COVID, especially one of the odd things is getting parents more involved and giving them more support. And so we'll have more video that I think we'll always have classes available via video for parents to check in on how classes are going and to help with supporting students. And I got my first class.
You're just running right up to the clock. Ms. Williams.
Well, let's see. Well, my first thought was much of what you said falls under the duties of the superintendent, because there would be many operational decisions to be made by the superintendent and implemented by his staff. How do I feel about virtual learning? I don't think anything will replace in-person learning. However, as Peter said, Washington County, I think, was in a great position to quickly respond during the pandemic. As he said, students had devices. We had teachers who were knowledgeable because they were using technology as an instructional tool. There were some courses taught using blended learning. So I'm very grateful for that. I said virtual learning won't replace in person, but it was the best possible option. I mean, to do nothing would have been horrible for kids to have had nothing. So I'm just very glad that Washington County was poised to be able to respond the way we did.
Thank you. And Ms. Robinson.
Okay, I feel that in person will never, virtual will never take in person. I think children always learn to be in person, but I think the safety of the children, the safety of the teachers and the staff is more important than anything. And I believe that once they start going back into the schools, I think the kids will be okay, because I think they'll be ready to really learn, because they won't want to go back into the virtual. But right now, I think with all the iPads, all the equipment, and all the things that the teachers have, and then also the teachers have the different way they can teach as far as at home or being in the school. I think that did a lot and will help out. But I think the safety of the children and the teachers is the number one priority before we bring them back into the schools.
Thank you. The next question. What steps should be taken to protect students and teachers from violence or harassment, including the use of safety resource officers and social and emotional professionals? Ms. Robinson.
Me personally, I think we need more counselors, because the safety, we do need the police in there because of the safety, but I think that if we had more counselors talking to the students, I think a lot of this stuff would be eliminated. Because I know when I'm telling my age, but when I was in school, that when kids was, acting up, we had counselors to sit down and talk to them. Now, a lot of times, what's happening is we have the police coming in and taking the kids out of school, and this is messing up with the kids, and that's where that whole pipeline comes from, pipeline to prison. I think we need to have more counseling, not just for the academic, but also teaching the children, their social, and teaching them about themselves.
Thank you. Ms. Zentmeyer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Certainly. What steps should be taken to protect students and teachers from violence or harassment, including the use of safety resource officers and social and emotional professionals?
I think as we incorporate more of the people in the health field into our educational system, and we do, our students are well served. The resource officers that I've worked with in the 3 schools that I've been in have not only been policemen in the community, they have been a viable resource to helping students return to classrooms. And that's our major goal. We need to reach out. We don't have all the answers. And it's a policy thing, which fortunately the board can address.
Thank you.
Certainly, so I think it's important that the individuals you mentioned, the resource officers and counselors are able to work hand in hand. That it's not one or the other, that those interventions are able to happen in a constructive way to support and facilitate returning to learning for these students who may have some issues in interacting in a regular environment. So I think they both play an important role, and I think it's important to integrate the two opportunities for intervention within the school system from every level.
Thank you. Mr. Stouffer.
First of all, when I went to school, and you stepped out of line, teachers took a hold of you and gave you a good shot sometimes. But having said that, the SROs that I work with, I spent 41 years at Williamsport High School. The SROs that I worked with, many of them were able to form relationships with students that sometimes teachers and counselors and others on the staff did not have. So I think they play a vital role, and I think they're necessary. Again, we tried to add courses and support. The superintendent has done a good job advocating for those in his budget, but again, that requires funding.
Ms. Williams.
Well, first I would say that our schools are a microcosm of our society, and the ills that we're seeing in our society are the very ills that we're seeing in our schools. And so I think social emotional learning plays a big part in keeping our students and our staff safe. As Mr. Stouffer said, our SROs do more than what a policeman would do. And I think they help a lot in building relationships and having children understand authority and the role of law enforcement. So I do think our SROs are an important part of our schools right now.
Again, one of the things that I like about working in Washington County and even growing up here is I think we jump on things before it becomes a state requirement. We jumped on the idea of building vestibules to make our entrances secure, and we were one of the first counties. We were so early to do that, we actually got refunded some of the money once it became a state requirement. So I think the next step is, I do believe in the SRO program. We're one of only 2 counties in the state of Maryland where we pay for it out of our general fund, which means we're giving the county commissioners a break. So I think they need to take that into their public safety fund, which frees up money for us to do more with things like guidance counselors, hiring more guidance counselors and behavior specialists.
Amen.
All right, next question. How would you ensure a positive working relationship between the Board of Education and 1, the county commissioners, and 2, the teachers union? We'll start with Ms. Williams.
Well, I think open communication. I know in the past 4 years that I've served as president and Mr. Stouffer as vice president, we have met individually with each of the county commissioners and tried to develop a good working relationship with them as individuals. And we have also, as a board, held joint meetings with the commissioners. So I think just to have good, open, honest, frank communication goes a long way. With the teachers union, that's a little different in that there's a lot happens through the negotiations process, and the board kind of has to distance itself. We have to distance ourselves from negotiations. Thank you for the red light.
Mr. Bickford.
We can build on that conversation, Melissa. One of the most perplexing things to me when I joined the board of why that relationship is so divisive, especially when anytime that we when we plan a budget, we immediately, one of the first conversations we have is that we want to give teachers their step increase. So I would imagine if you took the proposal that we come up with at the start of the process and put that out to the membership, 9 times out of, probably 10 times out of 10, they would approve it. So it is part of a lengthy, there are so many rules that make it divisive. I don't really have the answers except to just continue talking and continue to make yourself available to members.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson?
I would just say communication and working together and listening would be my 3 priorities with the other groups.
Thank you. Mr. Forrest?
Certainly, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but communication is vitally important to any relationship, including that interaction with the county commissioners and with the teachers union. I have had experience interacting with the General Assembly and the University System of Maryland Board of Regents in roles that I've had in the past, and just the opportunity to interact and to have those interactions and relationships outside of when we get into negotiations or when we talk about the budget or different policy proposals really, really supports those processes and creates a better working relationship.
Thank you. Mr. Stouffer?
Well, I think communication with the commissioners is important. As Melissa said, we met with all the commissioners every year, talk about our needs for funding and so forth. 2 of the commissioners, I have personal relationships with them because they were my students in high school, Mr. Baker and Mr. Klein. So I've known them for almost 50 years. With the Teachers Association, I don't call it a union because you don't have to join, you can't strike, so it's not a union. It doesn't work of a union, but again, I think keeping lines of communication open is the secret, because the Teachers Association represents every teacher in Washington County, and 80% of the teachers are members of that association.
WCTA gives us a good idea of what teachers want, but not the whole picture. So in addition to keeping an open pathway of communication with WCTA, we also have to find out what all teachers believe. As far as the county commissioners, open communication and building relationships and community with them is the only way to succeed. It's like building community and open relationships with business members and of this community. Without all of us, no one is going to succeed.
Thank you. All right, we save the hardest question for last. So we have at least 60 seconds. So, we're just going to go in alphabetical order here. So, starting with Mr. Bickford, why should we move?
Boy, that is a hard question. No. You should vote for me because I really enjoyed my first term. You come in as a newbie and you get trained really, really well. I think there's a wonderful structure in place. So one of your faces will definitely be new, if not more. And I think you're going to be excited by what you learn as a board member. People say, isn't your job really tough? And yeah, this has been the toughest past year, and yet it's very engaging. I enjoy doing it. It's not for the money. But because you're making big decisions about your community, especially when it's the community where you grew up. And to see, to be able to be part of a team, to be one vote that makes major things happen, like expanding preschool, expanding our tech programs. That's just been an absolute joy to be a part of. So I would hope you vote for me because I really like the job and I'd like to stay in it.
English is hard today. I am passionate about public service. I'm passionate about public education, and I'm a product of our school system. Not that long ago, I have firsthand experience in working as a substitute teacher and as going through our school system. And so I am a staunch supporter of our public schools, and I hope to work with many diverse groups to make it the best serving all of their interests and all of the interests of our students first.
Why you should vote for me is because first and foremost, my passion is for our children and for them to have the best education possible. And I have the skills to work with people, learn, if I become on the board, I'm gonna be total a newbie, and I wanna learn. I wanna learn to our whole focus to have the best interests of our children here in Washington County, to see them as when they walk out after the 12th grade, they have the confidence to go to the next level. So that's my passion, and that's why I'm running for the Board of Education, and because of my passion to see our children go on and being the best that they can be.
Well, I come from a blue collar background. I'm the only one in my family to go to college, and I don't think I would be here where I am today if it hadn't been for the public school system of Washington County, Maryland. Having said that, I wanted to be a teacher since I was in the 9th grade of school. I wanted to be a social studies teacher, and that's what I became. And I later became a coach and so forth, which was an extension of teaching. But I want to produce good citizens, whether they stay here in Washington County, which I hope they do, good citizens for the future. Like Peter, I enjoy my work. I think I have skills. I get along with people. I do say what I have to say, but I'm not a grudge holder or anything. And I would hope people would support me finishing my first term, and I have a lot of experience.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say that it was a very hard decision to file for a third term. I'm very privileged to have served for 2 terms, and I hope that my dedication and my ability to do the job would be apparent to the voters, and that I have earned the trust of the community to put me back at the table. I am totally invested in the position, and I will continue to be invested and work hard and to give my all.
I'm the oldest of 128 children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren educated by Washington County. It's my turn to reinvest and serve you with integrity. I know what I don't know, and I know how to find answers to those problems that we face. And so I hope that you will entrust me with that position.
Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause. Well, first of all, we did record this form, so we're going to post this on our website. And so if you'd like to watch again, or we'll promote it for those who are not here. I'd like to thank our IT team for helping us, so let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. I'd also thank Aaron for moderating. Good job this morning. Thank you. Thank Maryland Theater, and really want to thank our candidates, everyone, for putting yourself out there. For our incumbents, thank you for your service. For those who are challenging, thank you for putting yourself out there. I encourage all of you, because question number 8 was talking about the relationship with the business community and how to reach out to business. And so I encourage all of you, if you're elected or re-elected, we also like to stand Stouffer. I have a phone, a personal phone, and they can call. And we have not had any calls in the last 4 years from Board of Ed members. We would encourage those communications because we can't do business without education. And I don't believe education can do their work without business. We have to have a partnership. So I'd encourage you to strengthen that. Again, thank you for putting yourself out there. Good luck with your campaigns. And again, for those of you voting, please educate yourself and vote. With that, have a good morning and be safe. Thank you.
Yeah, see, I should be running a presidential debate.
Yeah.